Some may find the following footage difficult, so viewer discretion is advised. On April 8th, the city of Bucyrus, Ohio, was a perfect location to witness the total solar eclipse. It was an experience of a lifetime. But just a little over a week later, the town would go black for a completely different reason. Considering the focus of our last couple videos, the results of April 17, 2024 are eerie and ironic. Bucyrus, Ohio already had a close call in mid-March, when an EF1 touched down just 14 miles north of town. This time, though, the small rural town wouldn't be as fortunate. Miraculously, nobody was injured or killed that Wednesday afternoon, though the emotional and financial toll will likely remain for many. While Frank was chasing the actual warned area of rotation in the far southern portion of Crawford County, terror struck in his hometown. At 4:06 p.m., a high-end EF1 touched down in a residential neighborhood on the very southwest edge of Bucyrus, and for the next 6 minutes, all hell broke loose. This security camera footage, courtesy of Castle's Auctions and Appraisals, located on the corner of the always busy Route 4 and East Rensselaer Street, happened to catch the tornado. The west-facing camera is just 1 block north of the center of the circulation. Unsuspecting people drive south, directly into the tornado's path as it was wrapped in very heavy rain. At the end of the video, we see a northbound semi somehow still upright after either driving through or being extremely close to the center of the circulation. The preliminary estimated wind ratings missed the EF2 mark by just 1 mile per hour. Just 30 minutes before, schools had let out for the day and buses were still on the road. In fact, a bus had just let children off 20 minutes before in the tornado's exact path, including Frank's 2 children. Tracking northeast, the tornado crossed through Miller Park. At this time, Frank's wife and 2 young children were at home, which is located on the northeast edge of this very park. Thankfully, they had already made their way to the basement when the power cut out. The tornado passed just 2 blocks south of their home. Frank received a text from his wife saying the power was out and that phone service was slow, but it was just your typical thunderstorm at their home. Thankfully, they were located in the inflow region of the cell, probably one of the better locations you could be in considering the circumstances. Granted, Frank's children were introduced to severe weather at an early age, but his son's drawing from a couple years ago hanging above his desk is now eerie. It depicts a tornado passing just south of their home, just like it did on this very day. Not aware of the extent of the damage, Frank initially thought this was the result of straight-line winds, which have created damage across Bucyrus a few times in the past. But it quickly became apparent that the damage had been created by a tornado. The golf course here and the popular Old 30 barbecue next door took a direct hit from the tornado. Though the city has had its close calls in the past, including this year, this is the first tornado for Bucyrus in recorded history.
That's tornado damage.
With many of the main routes across town closed and a train blocking the others due to debris on the tracks, it was difficult to get from the east to the west side of town.
I just got done talking to the kids about the odds of the tornado hitting our house are very slim. And it looks like we had one. Not exactly a weak one either. This is absolutely tornado damage. Absolutely.
Large trees crushed cars and laid across streets. Normal business hours weren't quite over yet, so many were still at work when this occurred. Unfortunately, many homes and businesses across town took on significant damage, including a house that was pushed well off its foundation just 2 blocks south of Frank's home. Various businesses uptown had their windows blown out and other significant damage.
We'll be on a 2-hour delay tomorrow, Thursday, April 18th, 2024, due to storm damage in the city of Bucyrus. All state testing for tomorrow will be postponed until Friday, April 19th.
Windows were blown out and roofs were sucked off buildings. Siding and other building material laid across town. This business had half its roof peeled back, like it was a piece of paper. After taking a direct hit, the Family Dollar lost its roof and windows were blown out, likely while unsuspecting employees and customers were all inside. On the west side of town in Frank's neighborhood, there was more significant damage. You could smell fresh-cut wood, the smell of earth, the scent of a recent tornado. People worked together to try to get trees off their cars and clean up debris. Others walked across town, shocked by all the damage. A state trooper helicopter circled overhead, perhaps attempting to land and having a difficult time due to the high low-level winds that gave this very tornado life. The tornado had peak estimated wind speeds of 110 miles per hour, missing an EF2 rating by 1 mile per hour. Touching down at 4:06 p.m., it grew to a football field wide, reportedly bouncing across town, and after just 6 minutes, it lifted at 4:11 p.m. after crossing the busy Route 30.
See, this is why we need more radars closer to here, because you can't see low to the ground, because the radars are in Cleveland and freaking Cincinnati. So when you see the radar image here, you're seeing it thousands of feet up and not down where all this happened, you know.
This quick spin-up that was buried in precipitation went unwarned, unfortunately. Considering Crawford County's distance from the nearest radar site, anything happening below 6,000 feet is difficult to make out on radar. There were evident signs of rotation on velocity returns, but for the 6 minutes it was on the ground, that's just a couple radar scans. This is why we need more radar sites across the country, especially in areas where tornadoes occur frequently. Another public radar site at the Air Force Base in Mansfield, Ohio, would help greatly in being able to see what's happening in the low levels in north-central Ohio. Something to consider writing your state senator or representative about, no matter where you live. According to the Telegraph Forum, Eric Thomas, a Crawford County Sheriff's deputy, was asleep in his Kaler Avenue home. Seen here, when it was struck by the EF1 tornado. Mr. Thomas awoke to that all-too-familiar sound of a freight train while his house shifted a couple feet off its foundation. Since his house had shifted, he was unable to open any of the doors and had to crawl out a window onto his porch. Louis Katona, a local realtor, had just pulled into the parking lot at his office across the street from Thomas's home when the tornado moved through. Katona said, quote, "I pulled my truck up against our little building, which is seen here." Katona continued, "The next thing I know, I saw the sky go black and it looked like a funnel cloud about 3 foot in diameter came through here. The building went up in the air and started coming over my truck." Katona panicked. "I threw my truck in reverse while trying to think about how I was going to get out of it. I freaked out and tried to open the doors, but they wouldn't open because the truck was still running. That is when it dropped the building back down and picked up my truck and threw it across the street." Thankfully, neither Thomas or Katona were injured. Unfortunately, Thomas's home is no longer livable. 2 days later, the cleanup was still ongoing, but the first responders, utility workers, and community had Bucyrus seemingly back to its normal self quite quickly. Though things may seem back to normal, surely the emotional and financial damage will remain for some. But just like every Buckeye, the city of Bucyrus will fight to the end. We're getting towards the peak of severe weather season, so make sure you have a plan for when severe weather comes to your neighborhood. All right, Mother Nature. Now it's personal.